Question number 77 to 80 belong to the last RC set, which is a poem. Now, poem comprehension hasn't really come in CAT in recent times, but in XAT it comes. In 2007 XAT, for example, there was a poem comprehension given, and of course after that it has come one more time. While attempting this kind of an RC set, the student must remember that poems are full of metaphors or similes or imagery. So the meanings of the lines are most of the times, or more often than not literal. So to understand a poem as a literal piece would be a bit difficult. One good news is that from poem comprehension we hardly get difficult inferential questions. Like in this our poem we have got 4 questions. The last one is inferential, but it's an extremely easy question, because when we try to infer meaning out of a poem, it depends on the approach or the thought process of the reader, which may vary. And many times poets, they use ambiguity as a technique for writing poems. Now this poem is of course Autorec by Mark Shapiro, who was an American poet of Russian Jewish ancestry. Shapiro was famous for being known. Shapiro was famous for his usage of impressionistic techniques while writing poetry. Now, impressionism is a branch of art, or it's a knowledge base of art, where the painter uses unconventional color schemes and unconventional um, structure or pattern to draw different kind of work of art. For example, if I'm an impressionistic painter, I would paint a crow as yellow in color, whereas conventional wisdom says that the crow is black. So that is just an example of impressionistic style of writing. It's full of imagery, so an impressionistic poet would give you vivid description so that you would feel as if you were part of the scene which is being described. Now this one is a bit gloomy. The setting here is gloomy because the first stanza describes the scene of an auto wreck where the ambulance is coming to take the people away. From that kind of a vivid description, the author moves to, or the poet moves to, certain philosophical speculation towards the end, and is trying to find out logic from our the scene of accident. Like, what's the logic behind such kind of death? He talks about that. So let's look at the questions. In the first stanza, the author uses each of the following literary devices except. Now the thing is that each literary device has been explained here, so the student doesn't need to be someone with knowledge of English literature to understand these. Now alliteration, the repetition of a speech sound in a sequence of words that are close to each other. Now it is there. It's in fact there in the first line itself. It's quick, soft silver, bell beating. So this is alliteration, s, and then you say b. So this is an example of alliteration, so it is there. Simile, comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind. Now it is mentioned in the third line, pulsing out red light like an artery. So this one is an example of simile. Something is compared to another thing of a different kind. Personification, the attributes of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human, or the representation of an abstract quality in human form. For example, if I give you a sentence, death visited him last night. Now, only a human being can visit. Death is, of course, a non-human entity, but here death has been given some human attribute. Now, mostly you get an example of personification when the first letter of that word is capitalized. So here death will be written with a capital D. Or I met death on my way to heaven. So there D will be capitalized and death will be represented as a human being. So personification is something which many poets use. But in this poem, in the first stanza, the author hasn't used personification. There is no such example. There is no highlighted or capitalized first letter. So C can be the right answer. The author has used all of the above literary devices is wrong. So C will be the answer to question number 77.